species of Variformin's been extinct since the Cretaceous period. I mean, this thing is about this thing. What?
It's an ex-Muslim.
You're dead. You crazy son of a bitch, you're dead.
You just tear up the rule book on it. Cold-bloodedness, it does not die. They're totally wrong. This is a warm-blooded creature.
This thing doesn't live in a swamp.
This thing's got, what, a 25, 27-foot neck?
Abdullah Samir, 30.
We're gonna make a fortune with this place.
Dr. Richard Dawkins, welcome to Ex-Muslim Park.
They're moving in herds. They do move in herds.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is my ex-Muslim Park. Here I'll be debunking all kind of ex-Muslim nonsense. So basically my first target is Apostate Prophet. I've been seeing that he's been spreading a lot of nonsense about Islam, and I'm here to debunk them. So hopefully you enjoy this. So yeah, let's get started.
I will tell you my story about Islam. I will tell you how much I believed in it and how much I loved believing in it. In Germany, I also started to drink alcohol at a very early age. That was like...
What the hell did you just say?
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون.
O you who have believed, indeed, intoxicants, gambling, sacrificing on stone altars to other than Allah, and divining arrows are but defilement from the work of Satan. So avoid it that you may be successful.
I will tell you my story about Islam. I will tell you how much I believed in it and how much I loved believing in it. I was involved in a robbery. So even though I was a good kid, I was involved in a robbery. I will
slap you, man. I will slap the hell out of you. You don't play with me. You don't know who you're messing with.
So as you can see, this guy is a complete fraudster, and I don't even know why people even take him seriously. But since on his YouTube channel he has what, like 50,000 subscribers or something like that, I guess people take him seriously for some reason. So yeah, so he made a video explaining why he left Islam, and he gave like 22 reasons or something like that. So I'm going to be repeating those reasons, but before I get to anything, in the beginning he said something like you know, because of his past, in the past, his family and how they treated non-Muslims, somehow that's justification for him to leave Islam. Or, you know, he basically tried to portray as somehow all the Muslims are somehow like that. And I can tell you for a fact that that is some grade A horseshit. Because I can tell you for a fact that I live in a Muslim majority country, Bangladesh, And I can tell you for a fact that I went to a Catholic school and I have Christian friends and I have a very conservative Muslim family. I come from a very conservative Muslim family, and my parents never, not once, did they ever taught me anything where basically they told me to hate Christians or Hindus or Buddhists or anything like that. They always told me to respect them. So again, here he's committing a logical fallacy. It's called history generalization. Basically, he's taking his limited set of surroundings and basically applying that small data on the whole of Muslim population, which is just ridiculous. But regardless, I'm gonna be refuting all of his 22 reasons as to why he left Islam, and after that I'm gonna have some interesting questions for him. Let's see what he has to say about that.
The sun sinking in a muddy spring. Well, this is one of the funniest verses, one of the funniest combination of verses. And it was actually one of the first things that made me think, wait, you know? If you read further in these verses, you will see that God, you know, the author of the Quran is God himself, that God describes a story of some person called Dhul-Qarnayn because people ask him about, because people ask Muhammad about him. So the Quran explains us that this person travels to the west as far as he can, and sees people who are exposed to the sun immediately and who have no protection against it. Well, that would only happen if the sun was really so very, very close at some part of the world. But it isn't, as we all know with our new minds in the 21st century. Until when he came to the rising of the sun, he found it rising on a people for whom he had not made against any shield. You see what I mean, right? Just imagine that.
Now, if you have any idea about Islamic literature or philosophy, you can clearly see that his way of thinking is actually not rational. In philosophical terms, we call this a cognitive bias. Basically, cognitive biases make our judgment irrational. It seems like he in particular is suffering from the belief bias. Basically, he already has a pre-existing belief that that Islam is false, and therefore he will use anything to rationalize that belief, no matter how ridiculous it sounds. So his argument here is that because it says that Dhul-Qarnayn found some people who were exposed to the sun and they had no protection or shades against the sun, that must mean that the sun is somehow really close in some parts of our world. However, the problem is that his argument makes no sense. It just doesn't follow. Saying that, you know, people didn't have protection against the sun is not then followed by that, then that must mean the sun closer in some parts of the world. This is actually a logical fallacy called slippery slope. You know, just because it says that they have no protection against the sun doesn't mean the sun is close. I don't know where he got that idea from, but anyway. So this is actually a logical fallacy. It's called slippery slope, and he's taking one sentence and then turning that one sentence into an extremely hypothetical assumption. Now, the biggest problem here is that he never made it clear that this is his opinion and not fact, and he basically presented no evidence for this. And then he has the nerve to present this in front of his audience as a fact, when in fact this is actually just his opinion. And if he thinks this way, then surely he could present evidence for this fact, maybe some hadith narration or some commentary from the scholars, but no such evidence he presented. I mean, he didn't present any evidence like this, and that's a problem. Because this is actually a normal sentence we use all the time in our daily life. I mean, imagine a person says, hey, I was going out on the road and I got sunburned because I had no protection against the sun. Does that now mean that the sun is somehow closer in that region? No, it doesn't. Another fallacy he is committing is appealing to false authority. Basically, he is trying to make it seem as if that he is somehow an authority on Islam. The problem is that he most certainly is not. He is not an Islamic scholar, nor should he be regarded as such to give fatwas. He is talking about things he knows nothing about. He is not qualified to give an educated opinion on Quranic verses. He most certainly cannot talk about his own opinion and then present it as facts. Now, according to an actual Islamic scholar who knows what the hell he's talking about, Ibn Kathir, he said that this verse, 1890, basically it was revealed, and that according to him, it's talking about a place where they had no buildings or trees to cover them or shade them against the sun or the heat of the sun. And one of the companions of the Prophet, Qatada, said that it was mentioned to us that this actually happened in a land where nothing grew. So basically he's saying that it happened in a place where the sun rose, and basically they had no trees or any buildings to protect themselves against the sun or the sun's heat. So also according to Qatada, basically when the sun rose, they would go into tunnels to protect themselves against the sun's heat, especially when the sun was at its zenith. Then they would, after the sun kind of loses its heat, they would eventually come out and go about their daily lives and earn themselves a living. Now, what's interesting here is that there are actually archaeological and historical evidence for this. Basically, what I mean is that, for example, the underground city of Nushabad in Iran. According to an article by Ancient Origins written by an archaeology student, this particular city in Iran predates even the Sasanian period, or could predate the Sasanian period, according to researchers, which means that it's a pretty damn old city. And the researchers have said that one of the reasons why the city was built was to escape from the heat, which would match the description given in this Quranic verse. Now, what the real question, and an interesting one at that, is that if the Prophet was talking about this ancient city in Iran, then how the hell did he know that these underground tunnels existed? You know, I mean, it's not like he went to Persia. I mean, we have no historical evidence of him ever going to Persia or for a business trip or etc., as far as I know. And also, the only place, as far as I can tell, where he went was Syria for a business trip and near the ocean, but no mention of him ever visiting Persia. And also, according to historians, this place was oftentimes used as an underground bunker against invading armies. So it's not like the Persians would go around telling stories about, hey guys, basically we have this underground tunnel which we use whenever we're under attack by enemy forces. So yeah, I don't think they'll be doing that. So, and also remember that this verse was revealed because people wanted to test and see if Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was actually a prophet or not. So basically they would obviously ask him about things that is not common knowledge. So basically it seems to me like he's talking about things that people don't know about. So maybe it's the story of Dhul-Qarnayn is something that was well known within the Jewish community, or or other community, whoever asked this question. And so basically they wouldn't ask about something that was well known. And since Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he mentioned that these people would go into tunnels when the sun would reach its zenith, it basically he's highlighting a fact that his companions probably didn't know about. So which again indicates that this is not common knowledge. So my question is a simple one, is that how the hell would he know about this? Like, he has no way of knowing this. I mean, it's not like there are many underground cities in Saudi Arabia, or at Arabian Peninsula at that time. So when you think about it, it really doesn't make sense that he would know about this. I mean, he has no way of knowing this. I mean, he's not an archaeologist or a historian, and also most of these cities haven't been discovered yet. I mean, this city was only discovered recently when people were doing a construction project, and it definitely wasn't discovered at the time of the Prophet, because the Muslim army haven't gone to Persia yet. So how could you know? So again, if you really think about it, it becomes quite obvious, because he had no way of knowing this, and the only way he could have gotten this information is from a divine source or something like that, because otherwise I don't see how he could have known this. And so the strongest possibility is that he got it from divine source.
Another thing, the actual disturbing thing in this verse which made my faith shake, is that he also goes to the east. I don't know what that point would be, since we don't live on a flat earth,
He just made two logical fallacies here. Number one, he made a strawman argument. I mean, who the hell said anything about a flat earth? I mean, where did that come from? And the second one is the slippery slope. Just because it says that he went from east to west or west to east, that does not mean that the earth is flat. I mean, how does going from east to west then turn into, then that must mean that the earth is flat? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Also, about this whole flat earth nonsense, Quran makes it clear that the earth is definitely not flat in the verse 55:17. In the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He is the Lord of two east and Lord of two west. Now, if the earth was flat, then how can the earth have two east and two west? And the thing is that this is actually true, because the earth literally does have two sun rising points and two sun setting points. From one side it has east and west, and on the opposite side it also has east and west. So in that sense, it has two sun rising points and two sun setting points. So the Quran is right, and this easily leads us to believe that the Quran says that the earth is not flat, earth is spherical. Another thing is that according to the scholars, Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy upon him, in his book, the famous treatise Al-Risala al-Arshiyah, he refutes the position of Neoplatonic philosophers who, Ibn Taymiyyah, he discusses this question whether earth is round or flat. He basically writes that the celestial bodies are round, as it is in the statement of astronomers and mathematicians. It is likewise the statement of scholars of the Muslims as well, as Abul Hasan ibn al-Manadi, Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm, Abul Faraz ibn al-Zawazi, and others have quoted that the Muslim scholars are in agreement that all celestial bodies are indeed round. Indeed, Allah Ta'ala have said, it is He who created the night and the day, and the sun and the moon, they float each in falak. This is said in the verse 21:33. Now Ibn Abbas says that a falak is like that of a spinning wheel. Ibn Taymiyyah continues, he says that the word falak in Arabic language means that which is round. So as we can see, it is quite clear that according to the Quran, the earth is spherical, not flat. Now, another thing is that in Surah Az-Zumar, verse number 5, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He makes the night overlap the day and the day overlap the night. And the term that is used here, the Arabic term, yukawir, means overlap, which comes from the origin kura, meaning sphere. And also this term, folding or wrapping, yukawir, some say that this word refers to folding or wrapping a turban on someone's head. You say in Arabic a cover of the turban, meaning the part of it which is wrapped around the head, when it comes to turban. So obviously this is talking about something spherical, or something that is the shape of a sphere. So the night overlapping the day is happening like that of a turban, meaning something spherical. So I think that also kind of makes it clear about what the Quran says. And I think it's quite clear from these verses that the earth is spherical, not flat. Also, Apostate Prophet used intellectual dishonesty to manipulate his audience, because he's trying to make it seem like everything in the Quran has to be taken literally. However, that's not true, because we know in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it is He who has sent down to you the book, His Quran. In it are verses that are entirely clear. They are the foundations of the book. And those are the verses of Al-Hakam, commandments, Al-Faraid, obligatory rules, and Al-Hudud, the laws of punishment, and thieves and adulterers, etc. And others are not clear. So as for those in whose heart there is deviation from the truth, they follow that which is not entirely clear, thereof seeking al-fitna, and seeking for its hidden meanings. But none knows its hidden meanings except Allah. And those who are firmly grounded in knowledge say, we believe in it, and the whole of it. Clear and unclear verses are from our Lord, and none receive a domination except man of understanding. This is said in Surah Al-Imran 3:7. According to Ibn Kathir, this means that there are verses in the Quran which is clear, and then there are verses that are not clear, which proves that unless you have proper knowledge and understanding, you probably shouldn't interpret the Quran on your own. So this proves that the Quran shouldn't always be taken literally. The Quran is a book of metaphors and allegories. So when the Apostate Prophet tries to make it seem like that everything in the Quran has to be taken literally, he is clearly either lying or manipulating his audiences.
In the furthest east, he finds that the sun is sinking in a muddy spring. That's what the Quran says. How can you and the sun sinking in a muddy spring visible from Earth, that could be only on Earth itself. Like, if the sun touches the Earth as we know it right now, we would all be dead already. That's why scholars and others who don't want to go with what the Quran says directly make interpretations of that and say he saw it as if the sun was sinking in a muddy spring. Now let's read it. Chapter 18, verse 83. It says, "And they ask you, O Muhammad, about Dhul Qarnayn. Say, I will recite to you about him a report. Indeed, we established him upon the earth, and we gave him to everything away. So he followed away. Until when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it as if setting in a spring of dark mud. And he found near it a people. Allah said, O Dhul Qarnayn, either you punish them or else adopt among them a way of goodness." The funny thing here is that this as if in brackets between it and settings is actually not there. That's an interpretation that scholars, people who interpret the Quran, put there. But it's actually not there. So the verse says, until when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it setting in a spring of dark mud. Until when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it, and he found it, and he found it.
Now, this is his main argument. But again, this is another lie. The verse doesn't say this. Let's take a look at what the verse 1886 actually says. Now, you see this word here, wajdaha. As you can clearly see, it means he found it. So the verse literally says he found the sun in a spring of dark mud. The verse doesn't say the sun sets in a spring of dark mud. It says Dhul-Qarnayn found the sun setting in a spring of dark mud. It's like me saying I saw the airplane rising up from the ground. It doesn't mean that the airplane is literally rising up from the ground. It means that from my perspective, it appeared to me as if that the airplane was rising up from the ground. So clearly, as you can see, since I'm telling the story from my perspective, I'm saying that I saw the airplane rising up from the ground because I'm telling the story from my perspective. The same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is also telling the story from the perspective of Dhul-Qarnayn. That's why he says he found it, meaning Dhul-Qarnayn found it. If he really wanted to say that the sun sets in a pool of dark mud, he would have said the sun sets in a pool of dark mud, but he doesn't say that. He says he found it, that the sun sets in a pool of dark mud. So yeah, I think that pretty much clears it up. Now I'm going to show you a bunch of evidence from both the Quran and the Hadith about what it actually says about the sun. And it will hopefully inshallah, it will completely destroy Apostate Prophet's argument. So let's take a look about what the Quran and the Hadith actually says about the sun. So at first, let's take a look at this Surah Yasin for chapter number 36 and verse number 38. Here we can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, and the sun runs to a term appointed for it, that is the decree of Almighty, the All-Knowing. Meaning here it says that, and the sun runs to its course towards a stopping point, that is the determination of exalted in might and the knowing. Meaning here Allah is saying that the sun runs towards a term appointed. And there's a hadith about this in Sahih Bukhari. Sahih Bukhari, this is book 60, hadith number 327. Here it was narrated by Abu Dhar. He asked the Prophet Muhammad about this verse in the Quran, and that the sun runs on a fixed course or term appointed, in the verse 36, 38. And Prophet Muhammad said this, that its course is underneath Allah's throne. So it means that this whole thing is happening underneath the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, according to Ibn Kathir, said that the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the roof of creation, meaning everything that happens beneath the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Ibn Kathir, he continues in saying that he also mentions another hadith from Abdullah bin Amr, Ibn Masud, and Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with them, about this ayah, and that the sun runs with no fixed course. And they said about this verse that this verse means that the sun has no destination, and it does not settle in one place. Rather, it keeps moving day and night, never slowing down or stopping. Now, a similar verse, another verse, says the exact same thing. This is verse number 1433, where it says, and he has made the sun and the moon both constantly pursuing their courses to be of service to you, which means they will never slow down or stop until the day of resurrection. So here we can see that both from the verse 36-38 and the verse 14-33, and from the Hadith, Sahih Bukhari, book 16, Hadith number 327, it becomes quite clear. And also this is mentioned in another Hadith, this is Sahih Bukhari 3199, where the same thing is repeated, that we can clearly see that, and also according to Ibn Kathir, that the throne of Allah is the roof of creation, and underneath throne of Allah everything happens. So basically here we can see that the sun, both the sun and the moon, are running for a certain amount of time underneath the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a fixed time. So, and they will never stop or slow down. So my question is that to Apostate Prophet, if both the sun and the moon are running constantly, as according to verse number 1433, if both the sun and the moon are running constantly, then how the hell does the sun sink in a muddy water? You know, I mean, how does it set in a muddy water? I mean, just ask yourself this. Like, here the Quranic verse is literally saying that the sun and the moon are constantly running, which is scientifically accurate, by the way, because the sun does make a course around the Milky Way galaxy. By the way, there's a Vsauce video about that, you can check it out. So here you can clearly see that this idea that he made up, Apostate Prophet, where he's saying that the sun sinks in a muddy water. Now if that is the case, then surely somewhere else this thing will be repeated, right? I mean, anywhere in the Quran, can you find me somewhere in the Quran where it says that the sun sinks in a muddy pool of water? I don't think so, because there's no such verse exist. It's only in this case, and in this case it is so clear, so clearly obvious that it is being told from the perspective of Dhul-Qarnayn. And as I shown, both from Surah Yasin and Surah Ibrahim and the Hadith, that both the sun and the moon are constantly running, and they will never stop until the day of judgment. So if they never stop, then how can the sun set in a spring of muddy water? Because if they're constantly running, how can it set anywhere? You know? So I want to ask Apostate Prophet a legitimate question. Is he deaf or is he stupid? Like, I mean, I'm not an Islamic scholar, okay? This took me like 5 minutes to find on the internet. And he made a 40-minute video and he couldn't find this. I mean, like, it doesn't take, you don't have to be a genius or a scholar to find this. Just Google Ibn Kathir's tafsir and you'll have this. Or just look for the Hadith, anything, like the prophetic commentary, the scholars' commentary. Like, he says that the apparently the scholars are like trying to come up with like some this apparent conspiracy theory to make it seem like that the Quran doesn't say something that he thinks it says. If that's the case, then how come the Quran is saying he found it, and yet he never mentioned this point? And at the same time, he showed 2 verses from the Quran which confirms the fact that the sun is running underneath the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if it's running from underneath the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it cannot, by virtue of the fact, it cannot set in a pool of muddy spring on earth. It's impossible. So I just want to ask him, like, is this like, does he not have internet? And so either that, or he is clearly dumb or stupid, or he's manipulating his audiences. So again, like, as you can clearly see, this guy is a complete fraudster. Now, Islamophobes like him oftentimes uses hadith from Sunan Abu Dawud, this one, to try to make it seem that the Prophet said the sun sets in a spring of warm water. But this hadith report, according to let me turn the table and Islam QA and other scholars, is a weak hadith and unreliable because of a few factors. It was narrated from two isnad, or chain of transmission. One was included in Bukhari and Muslim and was narrated by a large number of people and is widely accepted by scholars and of people of knowledge, and without any variation. And the other one is only narrated by one or two people, and both reports from the two isnads contradict each other largely. So one isnad with only two narrators, the one that says that the sun sets in a warm spring of water, is considered extremely weak because only two persons narrated this, and it hugely contradicts the other hadith, which was narrated by a large number of people. So obviously, if there's two people who's saying one thing and then there's 100 people who's saying something else, then obviously hundreds of people that are saying that something else are obviously more reliable, because two people can make a mistake, but 100 people are likely not to make a mistake. Chances are they're not making a mistake. So it's quite obvious that this hadith is weak and it shouldn't be accepted. Also because it also contradicts the Quran as well, as I just showed. So yeah, this hadith is not acceptable. And this is the thing, by the way, in case you're a Muslim, there are weak and fabricated hadiths out there. The scholars, they have developed a system to it's called science of hadith, to determine which hadith is reliable and which hadith is not, because we need to determine which ones are true, which reports are true, because hadith basically works like a news report. You need to authenticate it to verify and make sure that you got the right one and you got the truth. So anyway, also there are other technical reasons why this hadith is considered weak. I highly recommend you guys to read the article by Turn the Table and Islam QA. It's highly informative. I think I'll post the links below. You can check it out. So yeah.
He said, "As for one who wrongs, we will punish him. Then he will be returned to his Lord, and he will punish him with a terrible punishment. But as for the one who believes and does righteousness, he will have a reward of paradise, and he will speak to him from our command with ease. Then he followed away. Thus, and we had encompassed all that he had in knowledge. Then he followed away, until when he reached a pass between two mountains, he found beside them a people who could hardly understand his speech." Let's stop it here. Oh God. So he goes to a place at a completely different part of the world, and he finds people that don't understand his language. What a fucking surprise. Anyway, I will make a video about this very topic because it's interesting and it's funny, and I actually want that video to be the beginning of a series that I want to make, but I couldn't name it yet. So if you have any idea, you can give me your idea in the comments. My ideas so far are what the fuck verses in the Quran, Quran fails, the insanity of the Quran, Muhammad's vomit. You can vote for that below in the comments section.
Apostate Prophet is again showing his belief bias and using his feelings or emotion as a tool to manipulate his audience. He will literally say anything to justify his blind faith in Islamophobia or in his hate of Islam. Also, he is committing the logical fallacy of appeal to emotion, meaning he is using laughter based on his emotion to try to make it seem like that, oh, look at this, you know, how weak this is, haha. You know, he's laughing at something that's quite simple and actually not funny. Dhulkarnain went to a place where the people were barbaric and didn't understand or couldn't understand their language, as because they lived far away from civilization. This is a detail that we needed to know, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to highlight this fact, because this is an important part of this story. And chances are this is not something Dhulkarnain planned, you know, and because according to Ibn Kathir and others, he was basically conquering every land he could find, and he went really far into a place where civilization pretty much ended, and so also, where does it did he say that he was surprised? Like, he's laughing at the fact that what a big effing surprise that these people does not understand his language, but where does it say he was surprised? Again, this is another fallacy. It's a straw man argument. It's never mentioned that he was surprised. Anyway, it just says that Dhulkarnain reached a place where some foreign people lived, and as he was conquering his way to both the east and west. That's all it says. Of course, he wants to make more videos to spread lies about Islam. However, the real reason he's probably doing this is because of those sweet Patreon money. Let's be honest here. I mean, he can't even come up with his own ideas for a video. He has to rely on his audience regardless. This is the first part of me exposing the lies of Apostate Prophet. I think I'll refute all 22 of his claim for living Islam. This is the first video in a series of videos where I'll be exposing this idiot for what he is. And I'm sorry if I'm being kind of insulting towards him, but this guy he knows about Islam. Okay, he's definitely has done his study and he knows what Islam is, and again, he's suffering from the belief bias and tons of other bias, other confirmation biases, and he refuses to hear the truth, and he made it his mission to take down Islam, to destroy Islam. And so I cannot, as long as I live as a Muslim, I cannot let that go. I cannot just sit here and let people like him just lie about my religion. I can't do that. Which is why I'm making this video, you know. I mean, like, I don't plan on making any money or anything like this. I just want, even if I can stop at least one person from apostatizing or falling for their lies, then that's enough for me. So again, if you like this video, please like, share, comment, and spread the word, subscribe, and and you know, it's amazing that I even have to make this kind of videos, you know. I mean, this should be common knowledge. I mean, people should know what Islam is about. They shouldn't have to learn about Islam from liars like this. But anyway, and I actually genuinely feel horrible and sad for those souls that left Islam because of people like this. You know, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He guides them back. But regardless, anyway, it amazes me.
पहले जो दंगा सा पहले जो हमारी ईद थी वो इससे प्यारी थी हमारी, क्योंकि हम पूरा परिवार एक जगह थे। आज हमारे बच्चे बिछड़े, कोई कहीं कोई कहीं, तो हमें देर बोलेंगे अब कैसे ईद मनाओगे, हमारी ईद बन गया, हमारा कुछ नहीं, आज बाप बर्बाद हुए पड़ेगा, बच्चे हमारे छेदने में पड़ेगा, क्या करें हम, कोई सुनने में। अब तो प्रधान मान लो, अब तक मैं देख भी रही अपने गाँव में मनाते वो ईद में, यहाँ मजा नहीं है।
आप जाएंगे वापस अपने गाँव?
नहीं जाएंगे।
क्यों?
वहाँ जाना ही नहीं चाहते। जिनने हमारी बेइज्जती कर दी बच्चों की बेइज्जती कर दी, हम क्या लेने जाएंगे वहाँ से? क्या रखा हमारा? मस्जिदों में आग लगा दी, बच्चों को धक्के मार मार कर बाहर निकाल दिए, औरतें आज तक भी डरती हैं।
I wonder if his audience even cares about the fact that they're being lied to, or the fact that they're being ripped off for a lie, or the fact that Islamophobia is actually causing people to get physically hurt or killed. I just saw that on an article that there has been over 200 attacks on Muslims in Germany and other places in Europe just because they wear a headscarf or a toupee or a turban on their head. I wonder if they care. Their misplaced fear or hate, it's like the blind leading the blind. You know, there's a song in my country called the Kanar Hat Bazaar, where one blind man tells the other blind man to follow him to a place they have never been, even though they constantly need others to show them the way and tell them where the hell they're going. All of this hate and propaganda is based on what? I wonder. A bunch of lines drawn on a map by a bunch of men they've never met, lines drawn on a map that was never theirs to begin with. You know, I don't think they even know where this is all going. That's the sad part. However, we Muslims know full well where this is going, which is why I'll fight Islamophobia intellectually as long as I have to. So, a word of warning: this guy, Apostate Prophet, he's a liar and a fraud. So stay away from him. If you like this video, again, like, share and subscribe. Thanks to all the members of the group for helping me. Hopefully I'll see you guys on the next video. Jazakallahu khairan. Oh, and one more thing. If you are a Muslim, never stop being proud to be one. And if you're an ex-Muslim, then I'm sorry if I was being harsh, but I think you clearly understand what I'm trying to save you from, right? And again, if you are an ex-Muslim, just come back, alright? Just come back. Remember that sense of peace and tranquility that you used to feel? Remember those Eid mornings when you used to get Eid from your grandparents? I don't know if probably not a lot of countries have them, but in my country, whenever I used to wake up in the Eid, my grandparents or the elders in my country, they give a Eid, you know, it's kind of like a money. The elders give to young people on the day of Eid. Yeah, you remember that? Remember fasting in Ramadan? That sense of belonging to family and friends. You will never get them back. I don't think you will ever get that back. Not that way. Unless you come back to Islam. I mean, you can replace it. You can try to replace it, but trust me, I don't think you will ever get them back. You know, if you continue like this. So, just come back. Just come back.